What's up, everybody? It's Legal Tender. I'm back in the building. I'm back in the vault. Pulled out some notes to make a new video. As always, I want to start off by thanking everybody for supporting the channel. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you just came to board and you just joined the Legal Tender Tuesday family, thank you, thank you, thank you. I will definitely make sure that I shout you out by name on the next episode because this one is already recorded. If you're a fan of numismatics, if you're a fan of paper currency, if you're just getting into the hobby of numismatics, stay rocking with me, stay rocking with the channel. Every Tuesday is Legal Tender Tuesday, and I'll be making a new episode every week, speaking about something new, different, or interesting within the realm of numismatics. Throughout the video, if I say something that is a little off or a little different from what you know, let me know via the comments. I read everything and I respond back as soon as possible. And I look forward to your comments. And I want to say thank you for increasing my knowledge about certain things I don't know about numismatics. So keep the comments coming. All right. So again, I need to work on this intro. I may just start being like Seinfeld. You know how Seinfeld just came on, it didn't have a theme song or like anything like that. It just went into it. So I'm finna just get into it. So let's go. All right, so the notes that I pulled out today are these. Let me get them together. All right, so this is what I will be speaking about. This number right here, this numeral. And for contrast, all right, hold up. All right, so we have series year 1928 right here. And like I said, for contrast, we have another note that is series year 1934. Now both notes are of the same denomination and with green treasury seals and serial numbers. They are both Federal Reserve notes. And also, I got my one and only large size note, a horse blanket. So that's what we got going on today. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so like I said, what I'll be speaking about today is these numerals, this numeral, and where it come from. All right, so beginning with the series year of 1928, that was the first series year of a small size currency printed and released by the U.S. government. These notes were first released to the public in 1929 on July 10th. They also were the first standardized notes in terms of design and characteristics. These notes were also the first to be measured at 6.313 by 2.688, smaller than their large size predecessors of series year 1923 that measured at 7.438 by 3.141. Now, to give a little context on the size comparison, and the reason I spoke about that is because, all right, so right here we have this standardized note. It's still of the same composition and dimensions of notes that you'll find in your wallet today. And like I said, of series year 1928, and it had the measurements of 6.313 by 2.688. Now we have this note right here, which is, zoom in, stop being weird. Now, there we go. Series year 1923. Now this note, it has the dimensions of 7.438 by 3.141. Now I'm just saying a bunch of numbers, but look at the size comparison. Super small compared to this note right here. This note is known as a horse blanket. And let me make sure on this episode I explain what a horse blanket is, because I had this one guy tear me a new one because I didn't explain what a horse blanket was. I looked it up. A book definition, well, the book definition that I came up with, a horse blanket is a blanket that covers the majority of the horse. The only thing that's sticking out is a small portion of his legs and his neck. Now, with that being said, the term horse blanket was a slang term that was used for large size currency. And as we see, this is a large size currency compared to this one. Now, in 1928, the Department of the Treasury they decided to they was trying to figure out how to reduce their fiscal monetary responsibility in regards to printing currency. So what they decided to do was to reduce the size of it. So with smaller paper that would take less ink to accomplish the same goal. And it turned out they were saving millions of dollars by reducing the size of the note. So this size compared to this size equal millions of more dollars being spent just to make the currency. So they came up with this size right here. And this size first came into play with series year 1928. All right, so for that one random guy, I really hope I explained what a horse blanket was. It was a slang term that was used back in the day to express the large size of currency. Because to cover a horse, you'll need a large size blanket. All right, moving forward. Good gracious. I do it because I love it. All right, so again, starting with series year 1928, you now see that not only was it was a reduction in size, but that was the first year that the numeral was added to currency. Go back out a little bit more. All right. All right, so let's get into these notes right here. All right, so these are Federal Reserve notes. As always, you can tell the currency type up top. A Federal Reserve note that can be identified with the green Federal Reserve the green Treasury seal and green serial numbers. And that is on both notes. All right. Federal Reserve seal. Federal Reserve seal, good Lord. Federal Reserve note. Got the green Treasury seal and green serial numbers. Now, the only difference between these two notes besides this identifier, because the denomination is the same. They both $20 bills, green Treasury seal, both Federal Reserve notes. The only difference is, the only other difference is the series year 1928, 1934. All right, so now that we have identified that both of these notes are Federal Reserve notes. Let's speak about them. All right, so Federal Reserve notes feature a green treasury seal, and that started with series year 1928. I think I'll say 1928, green treasury seal. This was the only type of currency that at first featured the seal over the large engraved word to the right of the portrait. The wording denotes the denomination or monetary value of the note. This is the word right here. Now, like I said, it first began with this series year 1928 that they had the word with the treasury seal over printed over that word, and that word depicts the monetary value of the note. And again, this first started with series year 1928. These notes also carried a seal bearing the identity numeral of the Federal Reserve Bank of issuance, which can be identified in the black circular seal to the left of the portrait. Right there. All right, so this can be seen in the picture that is displayed as my visual aid in this note right here. It is to the left of the portrait, and you see the numeral 7. Well, on that one right there, it's a 10, but we got the 7 right there. Now, on this note right here, the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, responsible for the 7th district of the Federal Reserve System, issued this note. Now, it's 12 Federal Reserve banks, but Chicago is responsible for the 7th district of the Federal Reserve System. And as you see right there, Chicago, the Bank of Chicago, the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago issued this note. The regional seal is a design facet unique to the Federal Reserve notes because almost all other types of currency were issued directly by the U.S. Treasury. I did not pull out any additional notes, but if you think about a silver certificate, a legal tender, national currency, or gold certificates, they do not have Federal Reserve Bank identifiers identified right here because those notes were issued directly from the Treasury, not from one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks or districts. Now, the $5, $10, and $20 notes had numerical identifiers for the following series years: 1928 and 1928A. So zoom in a little bit. All right, so again, we have the series year right there. That is series year 1928A. And we have the numeral that identifies that Federal Reserve district. Now for the $10 denomination, the exact same thing. That is 1928. And for the $20 denomination, 1928A, we have a numeral that identifies the Federal Reserve district that issued this note. Now, the reason I speak about that is that the numerals were replaced with alphabets, and that started with series year 1928B. Again, that is 1928. So for series year 1928 and 1928A, for the $5, $10, and $20 notes, they had the Federal Reserve Bank identifier as a numeral, not an alphabet. The alphabets came with series year 1928B, and that is only for the $5, $10, and $20 bills. Now, moving forward with the 50s and the hundreds, those are different. So for the 50 and $100 notes, that can only be said for series year 1928. So series year 1928 is the only year that you will see a numeral identifier for a 50 and $100 note. Numeral right there, a denomination right there. And as you can see, zoom in a little bit. Series year 1928. So that's what set the 50 and $100 denomination apart from the 5, 10, and 20, because 1928 is the only year that the 50 and $100 bill had a numeral, and started with 1928A. That's when they moved up to the alphabet of the alphabet identifiers, identifying the Federal Reserve District or bank that the note came from. Something else that was different is another change was the obligation of U.S. currency. The redeemable in gold clause was removed on series year 1928A for the 50 and the $100 denomination. All right, so what I mean by that is, so if I could get a good zoom in of that one right there. All right, so series year 1928, this obligation. And I got a previous episode speaking about the obligation. The obligation is all the wording you'll find on a note. And the obligation reads that Federal Reserve Bank, the United States of America, will pay to the bearer on demand $20, along with this right here. And this states that this note is redeemable in gold on demand at the United States Treasury, or in gold or lawful money at any Federal Reserve Bank. As of series year 1928. On 1928A, for the 50 and 100, that changed. But on series year 1934, that obligation was changed for all Federal Reserve notes. Something else that was different from the 1928 series to the 1934 series, because on the 1934 series, this obligation was across the board for all Federal Reserve notes. And this says that this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, and is redeemable in lawful money at the United States Treasury or at any Federal Reserve Bank. Nowhere on this obligation does it say anything about gold. If we can see right here, redeemable in gold. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Now that gold redemption was removed from all Federal Reserve notes, and that began with series year 1934. And I'll tell you why. This obligation to exchange Federal Reserve notes for gold ended in the early 1930s as the United States outlawed the private ownership of gold and left the gold standard in response to the Great Depression. That is why that gold clause was removed from all Federal Reserve notes. They was moving to centralize all U.S. currency You've seen a decline in silver certificates being printed. They stopped making gold certificates and legal tender notes as well, because the government was moving toward having all U.S. currency be Federal Reserve notes. Now, if you have different currency types, those notes are still considered legal tender and can be spent up to this day. Alrighty, so let's get into some fun facts. All right, so let's speak about high denomination notes for a second. I have a couple previous episodes where I spoke about high denomination notes. And a high denomination note is any bill that has a monetary face value of higher than $100. So you have 4 Federal Reserve notes that fall into the category of high denominations. It's a $500 bill, a $1,000 bill, a $5,000 bill, and a $10,000 bill. Now, there is a gold certificate that is a $100,000 note, but it's a gold certificate, not a Federal Reserve note. All right. So with high denomination notes, the $500, the $1,000 bill, the $5,000 bill, and the $10,000 bill have never had numerals for Federal Reserve Bank identifiers. As you can see right here, there are no numerals, even though these notes are series year 1928. Can't see it because it's real hard to zoom in, but there are no numerals for these high denomination notes, even though all Federal Reserve notes were initially printed with the same dimensions and has the same series year. So we started doing the small size notes in 1928, and all these notes were printed and issued. The only 2 Federal Reserve notes that were not printed in 1928 were the $1 bill and the $2 bill. But the 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 500, 1,000, 5,000, and $10,000 bill were all printed starting with series year 1928. But all these high denomination notes never had a numeral as a Federal Reserve Bank identifier. So there you go. Now there are 12 Federal Reserve banks. So there will be 12 different versions of this denomination, going from 1 all the way up to 12, but this is the only one that I have as of now. 7. All right, that is all we got for this episode. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend to like, comment, subscribe, and if you join the family, I'll give you a shout out. And let's keep building up Legal Tender Tuesday, and look out for Fast Money Friday. All right, that's all we got for this one. Until next time, keep it legal, keep it tender. Talk to you soon.